Hello and welcome to KennyRoy.com. I'm Kenny Roy and this is the lecture for the month of December 2013. It is called Animating Straight Ahead. This is a lecture I was actually asked for in the resource wish list. Someone asking about animating something straight ahead. What I thought I'd do is I thought I would do another AnimGym shot walkthrough, and since it is a pretty physical AnimGym this week or this month, I thought I would do an AnimGym that is very, very, very physical and easy to do, straightforward or straight ahead animation as well. So this is how I do it. I'll give you a quick rundown. Really, everything is all centered in the hips when you're doing any sort of straight ahead animation. So my workflow is always to do as much of the final hips as possible. It's almost a mirror of my lip sync workflow in that I try to get the jaw to be as perfect as possible. Even though that's not totally possible, as close as I can possibly be, that's the best that I'm going to go for. Do you understand? It's weird, my camera's sort of like changing brightnesses. I think it's maybe because I keep on backing up and stuff. So what does that mean? Well, with lip sync, I have my hand underneath my jaw and I try to get that jaw past perfect, right? Well, with straight ahead animation, you kind of have to imagine and put into the cog, the center of gravity, or the root of your character, or the hips, that overall kind of weight where it takes a little bit of inertia to be overcome to get it going, and it also takes a lot of energy to get to slow something down. If you're thinking a little bit heavier in general than the character really is, you will have a better time. You will get a little bit easier results quicker. You will have more fun when you're animating it because it's always easier to tone down than it is to push stuff, inevitably. I've said this 1,000 times, I'll say it again, animating is like fishing, right? You don't drop your hook in the water and then push it towards the fish. You cast it over the fish and then you bring it in, right? You reel it in. So that's what we want to try to do, okay? That workflow moves on to basically outwards from that root. So doing a little bit of spine action and the parts of the body that are affecting the spine. So when I'm planning this shot, what I'm thinking about is if this is a heavy box and I really want to show how heavy it is, that I'm going to have the hips, the root basically moving the body, and he's dropping it. So I'm going to have my guy basically, it's too heavy for him, but he's not like literally dropping it. He's basically just putting it down a little bit out of control. And the way I want to show that is I want him to be carrying it kind of high, so that there's a little bit of range in his arms. And as he brings it forward, when those arms finally max out, that we get that little bit of pulling on the spine. And that energy will go back down through the spine and it'll affect the hips, okay? But I'll try to get my hips working perfectly first off. Okay, I'll do this all in spline so you can see this. I haven't started this yet, so you're gonna be seeing me doing it starting, basically from the very get-go. And we'll see what happens, okay? So it's gonna be a lot of fun. We're going to just dive right into the shot and take a look, okay? So here, without further ado, let's do animating straight ahead, okay? Here we go. All right, so here is my scene. It is basically, as you can see, it's Goon, and he's got this box. He's put a very simple rig on this box. It's just basically parented underneath this NURBS curve. Like I said, I haven't done anything yet. Really, I haven't done anything. So I still even have to basically pose this. All right. I want the hands to move with the box. So I'm not going to really worry too much about the hand pose or anything like that just yet. I'm just going to just roughly position them, and then I'll fix everything like that later. Okay, and I am going to constrain both hands to the box for now. Okay, because I feel, I mean, there's a lot of different schools of thought on this. There's the way to do this where you have basically the one hand sort of controlling the box, and it's constraining the box and the other hand. There's both hands free and the box constrained to one of them, and then there's the box constraining both hands. And just for simplicity and speed and how short this shot is, I think I can handle whatever constraint turning on and off pops happen and all that stuff. So I'm going to go up to constrain parent, grab it again, hit G, do the same thing. Let me just make sure that my selection masks are just curves like that. Okay, so here we have it. Now my box is basically constraining both hands. First thing you should always do is just save a quick copy of your scene. So I'm calling this 1312 straight ahead MV01. Okay. All right. So let's keep going here. So we have basically, I'm going to have him be putting it down on basically like a table that's kind of low. Okay. Something like this high. Okay. Now I said don't have your character taking a huge amount of time. Oops. Oh, that's what happened. I keep on forgetting to not use the numpad for my stupid my inputs. Sorry about that. Don't spend a lot of time establishing the weight of this box. Okay, if this were a movie, if this were a film, you have a lot of shots before and after yours, and normally the shot where this guy lifts this up off the ground, that's going to basically start the weight establishment. It needs to be continued and respected and honored in the shots after, right? I never realized that Goon's pole vectors were actually geometry. That's weak sauce, man. All this time I've worked with Goon, he's the How to Cheat in Maya character, and I never realized that he had his pole vector controls are actually geometry and not NURBS curves. All right. So basically, what's my point? Let's not spend too much time. Let's just get a good start pose where it's kind of like obvious that it's heavy, but we're not going to do like a huge amount of steps or anything. Let's just have him finishing a step. Okay. So this one is a little bit forward and tilted outward just a little bit. This is just coming up and planting just at the beginning of the shot. So you see what I'm doing here. What I'm doing is I'm just making it so that this foot is off the ground, and right at the beginning. In fact, let's start this off right. He's going to be over this hip a little bit. Right at the beginning, he's just going to plant this real quickly and then just dump the box. Okay? All right. So, but like I said, though, it really is all about the hips first. So let's do this. Let's actually make I wonder if we could save time by constraining the box to the hips. Let me think about that. And the disadvantage is that we have two constraints to animate on then off, or to animate off and then have to deal with the transition there. I think I can probably animate this and make it look like it's not floating and all IK and nasty. Okay, so let's animate the hips. Okay. when you're animating straight ahead, remember all of the controls. Here's something that's also very important to remember. All of the controls underneath this main control, this cog here, are affected by it. So if you are the kind of person that uses like C-sets, then what you're going to want to do is you're always going to want to establish kind of like how your workflow is going to deal with the fact that you're adding lots of keys. This is one of the main reasons why I don't like to use C-sets, is because of how much extra keys, or how many extra keys end up going into my scene. So if you take a look here, basically what we're getting is just only keyframes on the control that I really want to have here, okay, which is that root, right? So that's really all I'm thinking about right now, just thinking about that root and how it's going to move. And if I was using a C set, then I would have keys on probably a lot of other controls, and it doesn't allow you to do really a layered approach. Okay, so I'm going to have him kind of come to a stop. Okay, remember what I said here though, is that we kind of want to animate a little bit more weighty than it really is, right? So I animate him a little bit rotating and a little bit coming over to the side here, and that's due to the fact that I want him to look like he's carrying a heavy box, and we can always tone this amount down, but if it's not in there, it's not going to look good. This is a little bit of a trick that I do, where I just set a position key on 12 and a rotation key on 14, and it already built in basically my overlap for me. You understand? It already built in a tiny little bit of kind of like offset in the translations and the rotations in that character. See that? So he's finishing this step. Okay. And I will do this as well. I will also bring up my graph editor, and I will do things like just make it come to, like for instance, come to a nice even stop in Z, for instance, right? And then I will decide if I really think that this Z is coming forward enough. So maybe a little bit more. Okay. Need to make sure that I'm on real time. There we go. Okay, so a little bit of movement already, looking very cool. Okay. And let's see here. So immediately what's going to happen, just for my own edification, let's actually finish this let's see here. See here. Oops, sorry about that. Oh God, I keep on typing in the wrong thing. I apologize. I really do. Did it again. Did it again. Can be a little bit longer. This can move a little bit longer. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Now, what did I say? What I want to do next, I want to make sure that it's looking like he's getting pulled by the box at a certain point. So now that he's kind of come to a little bit of a stop, all right, I want to make sure that it looks like the box is taking over, okay? So I'm going to go back on the hips here, and I'm going to have them, past this point, start rotating, okay, and moving forward, and then forward to a certain point, and then really get pulled down. I'll deal with the legs later. Okay, a little bit of bending down already. What happened here? Okay, there we go. It's really getting pulled down, and then let's finish. Let's do this big kind of rotation forward. Offset with the rotation and the translation like I just did, right? So I rotated it and I translated it backwards like this. Okay, let's do the same thing right here. Get him standing back up. Okay, so let's watch that again. Okay, so not bad at all. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to kind of refine this with an eye towards keeping it nice and snappy and exciting. So I think this is probably too much in the beginning in terms of like him like raising up. So I'm just going to kind of kill this translate Y just a little bit. Just tone all this down. Okay. And now all these guys as keyframes. I still think he's moving too far forward on the Z. I think you should slow into this a little bit more. And how am I deciding what to refine right now? That could be a question that you're asking. Well, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make it so that everything kind of has a little bit of drama to it. And when I look at these keyframes they're kind of a little bit even. Everything looks like it has kind of almost like a natural slope to it. And that's not what I want. I want there to be a little bit of, like I said, drama. So this kind of quick acceleration right there, that's very dramatic. Okay, I think the rotations are also probably going just a little bit too crazy. I don't think it's necessary that he really rotates over this much to this side, right? So let me just rebuild this key just a little bit. Okay. Right. So, okay, moving on. I'm going to now take a quick look at the spine and try to make it so that the spine is a little bit involved now. But remember, I really need to be careful because this box will, in the long run, dictate how much the spine is being pulled and at what point the character's arms start running out of range and then bending the spine, which affects the hips, right? So that being the case, it's very important to kind of, you know, as you're keeping that in mind, work outwards from the root, but very, very carefully, okay? So I can't tell where this is supposed to be until I do the spine just a little bit, right? So let's, like I said, let's work out from the root just a little bit right now, okay? When I'm bending back, maybe just bending back just a little bit more into this pose. Just continuing to kind of bend back here. And then the arms start basically pulling. But I want to be very, very close control of this, because what I'm feeling is that we're going to run into trouble right about here where it stops. Alright, so it stops like right about here. So I need a keyframe around here. It's going to look twin. That's fine because I can untwin it by deleting that key when I'm done. Alright, you'll see what I mean in a second. I'll try to remember to come back to frame 27. Okay. So the spine needs to bend over before the hips kind of finish. And it needs to overlap a lot more too. Looks like I'm done by like frame 58 so far. I mean, we can't tell quite yet. Okay, cool. So this is I'm going to keep an eye as I'm moving forward. I'm going to keep an eye on this section right here. This is going to be sort of like my not trouble section. I'm not really anticipating it giving me any real trouble that I can't animate my way out of, but it's a focus section where that dynamic. I tell you guys that every shot is put on this earth to teach you something, right? Well, right now, this shot, I can tell it's been put on this earth to teach me to pay very close attention between that dynamic of the arms holding a very heavy weight, those arms extending, losing the range, pulling the spine starting to bend, and how that affects the hips as we go down, okay? So let's take a look. Let's keep on ranging this, okay? So now that I've done the spine, let's animate outwards. Now, how am I animating the arms? The arms are connected to this. So basically animating this box is animating the arms, isn't it? Isn't it? Yes, it is. Okay. So because we are dynamic and we are excitable, we are going to, I don't know what excitable has anything to do with anything, but I'm just trying to find words. I am going to make this actually a parent of the chest, actually. What kind of note is that? Question mark? Yeah, okay, weird. Okay, and this is going to constrain this, right? So at this point, it's sort of like not resting on his chest anymore, so it's going to get away from him. And what did I say? Frame 27 is when it really is our focus point. So at 27, that's when everything maxes out. Okay, and that's also when this object here set key, and then I turn it off. And now I can animate this thing. I'm not caring really about how the hands are penetrating the desk. That's not important. It's so unimportant, I don't even want to describe to you guys why it's unimportant. That's not what this shot was put on this earth to teach me, like how to get a character's hands out of the way before they hit the desk. If I was going to work on this, for days and days and make this like a real, a piece that's going on my demo reel, yeah, I totally would go in there and try to, come up with a clever way to make it so that his hands don't, get crushed. But that's not what this shot has been put on this earth to teach me. We already established this. The shot was put on earth to teach me a little bit about ranging an arm and doing a very detailed weight dynamic with the character holding a box. That's what it's here for. Okay. And then probably on, what frame is this, 37? I can probably key both of these. Blend parent is 1, and then key these off. Key this, key selected. Let me turn this off as well. Oops, sorry about that. Gotta turn my phone off. Apologize. Okay. And then we can have his arms. Let's just quickly, for the time being, let's just return his arms to kind of like default or whatever you want to call it. Okay. So what do we have? All right, let's save it real quick. All right, let's see what we have. Okay, so immediately we can see, how clear is this already what's going on? Immediately we see that what this shot is, the real kind of detailed moment in this shot that requires finagling, that requires a close eye, that requires my detail and my attention, is that moment when he's leaning forward and he starts losing it and it starts taking him. I think right now it's a little too fast, and I'm going to have to deal a little bit with the thing that I was trying to avoid, which is moving a lot of different IK and or constraint switches in time. It just becomes a little bit of a pain in the butt when you're dealing with all the blend parent channels and that kind of thing. But small potatoes in terms of trying to get the shot looking right. Right? Okay. So let's take another look. Let's watch this again, and you'll see. Okay. Okay. Maybe what we can do, actually, what I want to try first is to sort of elongate this moment in time by making it almost like he's heaving it up and over. And the way to do that is I'm going to go a little bit crazy here and delete all the Y. And have him do sort of a big sort of an anticipation. Let's just see this. One thing I just want to point out that you just saw You notice how I had absolutely no plan for what that was. It was just an idea. I'm not going to judge an idea until I see it play back at speed. Okay? This might look like garbage. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's going to. But my idea was, what if he kind of like comes to a stop and then does another almost just like anticipation before it takes him away. Let's see what it looks like. But my point here is that experimentation is still a massive part of my workflow, even when I'm working straight ahead. All right, it's not just pose to pose when you're working, when you're experimenting. Okay. I'm glad we can agree. All right. See, actually, you know what? That worked out great. Okay. Now what I'm doing is I don't want it to be as drastic in the beginning. Okay, now let's delay this and move this a little bit further back. Cool, it's working out great. Okay, his hips are not moving back far enough, quick enough at all. So here's a little neat trick. So right now, this is what I want. Do you see how, you can use a grease pencil. Do you see how his hips are going down at like this like angle? All right. So that angle, I want to keep that, and I want it to be very, sort of like very distinctly felt. But I want it to last longer. So what does that really mean? If I want it to be going down at this angle, being pulled by the box longer, then really what does that mean? It means that this is actually a combination of the Y moving downwards like this and the Z moving downwards like this. Actually, it would be the Z moving upwards, right? So if I have a keyframe here and this is the sort of apex of that Z movement, then this is what I can do. So watch this. Z and Y, right? I can do a buffer curve. So if I show buffer curves, okay, and I snap a buffer curve of both of these. Where are you? There you are. Okay. So let's do just the Y first. All right, so there's my buffer, it's behind there. So check this out. If I want to continue this motion, all I really need to do is just move this so that it's parallel with what this was before. Does that make sense to everybody? Right, I'm continuing this motion. I still have to get back to where I need to get to by the frame that I need to get to. But if I really want to preserve this feeling, then all I do is I just keep it going. I want to give it 2 more frames, 1, 2, and then I keep it right in line with what I had before. All right, I hope that makes sense. Let's do the same thing with the Z. 1, 2, and now he goes even a little bit more forward like that. All right, so he still has to get back to, home, but on this frame, he used to be right there, and it's slowed in and it's slowed out of this frame. Right now he's still getting to that frame and he's slowing into the frame up here. I hope that makes sense. Basically, it's a way to continue. What I'm saying is that I want the exact same motion I just want it to all last 2 frames longer, and get back to where you need to by the time you do, but I want it to all last 2 frames longer. See, now it's actually getting back to that frame way too quickly. So now I can just delay everything. Let's go back and select this and actually select everything, including the hands. And after this moment, I'd say it all needs a lot of time. Okay. Okay. What I like, check this out, and you discover things when you're working on your shot. This is what I just discovered. This is what I really like about this process, is it now looks like there's a little bit of a moment of hang time where he's about to lose it, and it really pulls him. It almost looks like he's stiff and he's like tipping over in this section. So I'd really like to emphasize that and make that the new thing that this shot is about, the new kind of focus of this shot. I really think it could look good. But first, I'm just really quickly going to animate the head, because that head follow is really freaking me out. I gotta turn up the chest influence so that the head is not isolated like it is right now. I'm just going to do, you've done this 1,000 times, I'm sure, just a straightforward a straight ahead overlap pass on the head. Doesn't matter that it's penetrating. It's really not an issue right now. We're trying to make the body look feasible. Try to make the body look great. Right? It's not about penetrations or anything like that. Can this follow the head? I guess not. No, I just got to see what this looks like with just a very rough head on there. Okay, cool. Okay, so now what I want to do is I just want to just work this and emphasize and put detail and focus into that middle section, which has recently kind of, it feels like it's changed a little bit into almost like a moment where he's like hanging and then it pulls him down. So I'm going to push this. I'm sort of, directing a shot while you're animating it is kind of like a push and pull. It's kind of a way of animating where you get an idea and it doesn't completely destroy the shot, but then all of a sudden you start doing things and adding keys that sort of push it, sort of just turn its head a little bit and have it take just a slightly different direction. It's a lot of fun. I'm having a blast. Let's take a look here. Okay, let's see what we got. So. Okay. So what will need to happen is we need to break up the spine here a little bit. And what really is the key, I think I discovered it. I think I just realized. What's really the key right now is how the spine is involved in like hefting this upwards right here. All right, I think I've got it. We need to go back into the hips just real quickly, real quick. And we need to have just a little bit more. A little more drama right here. A little more of a plateaued bottoming out. Yes, much better. Okay. All right, so what we need. Okay. What we need is here we go. This is going to make all the difference. Putting this key a little bit more forward and this key a lot further back is going to make it so that when the hips kind of dip down a little bit longer, the spine has what it looks like is time to recover, time for the spine to go from leaning basically totally backwards to starting to move forward. That delay in the Y arc. Okay, but then as it goes upward quickly, I'm going to bend the spine backwards as if that is his body really pushing up off the ground and getting a lot of like heft into that, lifting that box. Okay, again, all of this just a guess. Let's see if that worked out. I love it when it works out. Sometimes it doesn't. Yes, it worked out. Awesome. Cool. Yeah, it's really kind of like taking on a new life of its own here. Definitely not the shot that I was planning on creating, but very fun nonetheless. Very fun. What's distracting me right now? I jump around. I just want to fix these pole vectors. They're kind of freaking me out. I like to fly them because when they are really far outwards, then your elbows never really kind of like misbehave. You see that? See how this whole time they were moving up and down before, but now they're better. And I can adjust those when I'm ready to. I'm just not ready to. Okay. Now let's also, I mean, you call me distractible or easily distracted or whatever the word is, but I just cannot, for the life of me, look past things like blend parent. Okay, these are horribly nasty and IK, and I understand that, but at least now they're not completely breaking and stretching when they're moving. Now what we need to do is just make sure that we're keeping the dynamic. I've lost, to me personally, it's lost a little bit of the dynamic of the arms maxing out because I think it's the hips moving forward too quickly. So let me take again another look at the graph editor and see what's happening here. Yeah. See, they're almost the hips are almost moving forward more before the arms max out than after. Let's see here. Going to delay this rotation a little bit more. And can I delay this a little bit more? I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can. I don't know what I'm doing. What am I doing? Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm getting this. It's the same. It's the same. That wasn't an improvement. It's different, but it's not improved. I need to get detailed now. All right. So this is a good time for me to describe the next part of the workflow. What just happened was I changed something, and the net effect for me is like exactly the same. It's really not any better or worse. So at this point, once you get your shot to the point where that's continuously happening to you, and you'll know when it's happening, trust me, you need to say, okay, I've gone through enough experiments. You've seen me do about 4 or 5 experiments with this thing that have kind of redirected it a little bit and made it really kind of like honed in on a dynamic. At this point, now it's time for me to say exactly what I want out of the shot. There's a certain point of every shot's lifespan where it's not going to be one shot or another. It's going to be just one shot. So now we don't want to be the kind of animator that a shot kind of happens to us and we, you know, whatever we end up with, well, I'm happy with that. That's not the kind of animator we want to be. We want to be the ones that are really taking the time to make a shot explicitly and directedly, I guess that's the word, and are in control at that final stage, are very much in control to the final product. Okay. So that said, yeah. So now, since the changes that I'm doing are just different and not any better or worse, it's time to say, okay, well, now this is exactly what I want. So I'm going to spend some time right now in this middle section, again, because the middle section is super, super important, and I'm going to kind of start keying on like 2s and 1s and finding the exact moments that I want to have happen. Okay, so let's start doing that. So this is where it's maxed out. All right, so I get that. Now it's out of range. So I guess what I want is I really am interested in seeing if I kind of like tone up the violence here, if it really starts, you know, selling. So I'm going to range the whole spine to the arms instead. Okay. Problem is that this is kind of slowing into the table right now, and that's just bad contact. We can fix this though. Don't worry. We want it to fast in like that. Okay. Okay. This locator fighting against my animation on my box already. So now I need to kind of redo it, which is okay. Not a big deal. Just need to make sure that this is doing what I want, and I can't tell like that. Let's cut it fast into everything. Oh, actually. Really, it shouldn't be any X movement on the box. Aha. Okay. Okay. So I can adjust this now, knowing that we have kind of the final timing on the box. Actually, let me just watch the box. Okay, cool. Yeah, the box I'm happy with. All right. So let's just fix this now. I think I'm probably just delay what we had already. Just range it. All right, let's see. Too fast, too fast. What the heck? Oh. My bad. My bad. Okay. Okay. I think this is going to be probably just about the right timing. Let me just make sure that it's all good, all slowed in or fast in and all that stuff. One last time. Here we go. This looks a lot better. I can just tell from looking at the graph editor that this looks a lot better. We have a little bit of a plateau at the top right here, kind of a little bit nice and gradual, which is nice. Everything's nice. I love it when things are nice. It's the only descriptive word I have for any animation is nice. Jeez, sometimes. Piss myself off. Don't even have anything better to say. That's what my teachers used to say. Okay, fantastic. Now let's just delay all of this now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yikes. If there is ever any doubt about oops. I'm sure those keys are going to have to be deleted, but I'm not going to do that just yet. Okay, let's go back through, fix the spine, and we'll be on our way. Almost ready to put this shot to bed. There we go. There you go. Now I think we're feeling the real range going on here, the real range at play. And the what do you call it? The root is also a part of that. Probably bring the root in a little bit quicker, just a hair. No need to delay it so much anymore. It's mostly the rotate Z, or sorry, translate Z and rotate X that are the main, things in control of this, right? So let's bring them forward. It's just like 3 or 4 frames. Oops, I accidentally hit the scroll wheel on my Wacom, which is set to undo camera movement. I don't know why. Really inconvenient. Right? All right, it looks a little double-stepped. We can definitely fix that in polish. There we go. Okay. You know what I'd love to do? I'd really love to get some counter posing in the top spine here. I'd really love to. As if even though it's being pulled forward, it's still being pulled back. Let me see if I can counterpose these two. Just see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen. Remember, guys, I don't have a crystal ball. Probably need to smooth this out. So one trick, remember, is this is the keyframe that has every single one of these 3 controls has a key on it. Here's the last one. So it's 2 frames later. If I just want to smooth that out, maybe I can just do 1 frame later and delete that keyframe. Just give it 1 more frame to kind of like relax and settle. See what it looks like. It's definitely a harder impact. There's almost like a shudder in his back right now. Or is that his neck? Let me delete the animation there. I don't trust what's going on in his neck. Yeah, it's a little bit too much, a little bit out of control. Let me fix that. Yeah, I don't think we can get away with that much counterposing. That's okay. That's okay. Can't have it all sometimes. Let me just go back and fix this now. I didn't know that there was something wrong there. I don't know. I shouldn't take credit. I didn't know. I felt there was something wrong there. Definitely something wrong there. This guy just needs a keyframe. All right, let's see what we got. Here we go. Cool. When you get penetrations, don't fix the character. Fix the object. Okay. One last thing I would do before. Okay, so where are we at? Let's recap. Okay, so one last thing to do before I would say this is ready to start polishing is to make sure that things like the timing of the settle are not going to get in the way of the timing of the constraints that I'm switching on and off. I don't want to get into a situation where I'm just ready to polish this thing and ready to really start laying in the keyframes on 1s and 2s and start like really refining arcs and taking another weight pass and maybe fixing those fingers so they don't get crushed, making sure that his head doesn't slam into the box, those kinds of things. I probably do not want to get into any of that until I'm sure that the timing of the back half with the settle is looking pretty good. And why? It's because that's when all of the constraints are kind of turning off. It's when the box is unconstrained from the chest. It's when the hands are finally free from the box itself. A lot of things are kind of going wrong. So let's just take a quick look at that and then I'll decide. I think probably the thing that's making it look like it's going a lot faster than it really is the fact that these hands are going almost light speed back to home. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move them and do a nice gradual switch back to FK. like that. And then these arms, I'm just going to pose them down here. Don't forget, I haven't animated the shoulders or anything. You definitely, sorry, you definitely are not going to say you're ready to go into polish unless the shoulders are ready to be touched as well. And the shoulders are going to affect the range a little bit also. Everything's connected, guys. Everything is connected. So I just counter animated the elbow and the shoulder, hoping it looks like a little bit of overlap. It's a little bit ill-timed. It's a little off the timing. Let's just spline it all. And there's no reason that this needs to go all the way back there. Ah, God bless auto tangents. God bless them. Already tell I don't need that. Wow. Cool. I would say, yeah, it would probably be the hands. I just did a little bit of retiming on the root as well. Slow them down. Whoopsie, what did I do? Cool. Cool. All right, so I'm going to save that. And let's do a quick recap. I'll give you guys this file, so you have this file to play around with. Let's do a quick recap. Number one thing, even though this is not in order, but number one thing, experimentation is still a big part of animating straight ahead. Huge part. Okay, so don't get it twisted. There's definitely experimentation paths to check out. You know, walk down them, see if it's working out. If it's not, go back. It's also really important to stick to kind of, you know, everything is still centered in the hips. First thing I did was I did a little bit of a weight shift, and I moved it. I had the overall movement. I animated that in the hips. Good example of another time I used this was in King Kong. There was these creatures with in the bug pit, there was these creatures that had 6 legs and 2 pinchers. And the we were just starting to animate them, and I built this like little terrain, whatever, and I just grabbed the root and I just animated it over the terrain. And you know what's funny about characters that have a lot of legs is that they almost, if you take away the legs, they almost float. And so I just animated it like moving like this, and then doing like a like by camera, just as a little bit of a test for the animation director. And he saw it, he said, yeah, that's awesome. And that was it. That was like the only note. That's awesome. And so I just animated the root, and then the legs, it's almost like just keeping track of the legs, just animating them like on the ground, and it looks great. So you can get, especially with super like ultra physical work, you can get really far with just animating the root. Then I animate outwards into the spine and the legs, and then to the arms. Now the arms of this character were dictated by the box, and when the box started losing range in the arms, and that affected the spine, which goes back down to the hips. When we got to that point, you remember I was doing a lot of retiming when the hips started, or the root started being involved in that, it being pulled forward. And then finally, I had to really just decide exactly how I wanted it to look, finalize the timing of the box, move the constraints, or not the constraints. Move the timing of the constraint switches just a little bit. But once all that was kind of cleaned up and taken care of, then I was able to go kind of frame by frame and make the spine start working with the root. I'm still not concerned with the fact that like the head penetrates or anything like that. I'm happy with the timing, and there's just a little bit of gross posing still to do, but then I can probably get into this and start doing some refining, and then move on to polish. All right, so not bad for an hour of work and talking while I'm doing it, I would say. I'm proud of me. You know, maybe you're not. Maybe you're like, hey, I can do so much better in an hour. But then maybe you should do a video, and I'll put it up on KennyRoy.com. Actually, maybe you should do that. Anyway, let's take one more look. Here's after an hour of animating straight ahead. Looking pretty cool. Yeah, definitely on its way. I'm very happy with this. So I hope that gave you a little bit of insight in animating straight ahead. It's not as... this is not as physical as a shot. I mean, it's a very physical shot. I mean, it's pure physics, but it's not as like covering a huge amount of ground and whatever. I might do an animating straight ahead lecture where there's a character that's like really super stretched and animated super physically and over the top. Straight ahead, and so you can see a little bit of me working in that method as well. But suffice it to say that it's going to be sort of the same approach. It'll just be a different shot, and maybe that'd be interesting to you guys. If that is interesting to you, please let me know. Go into the forums under the resource wish list forum and let me know by posting a thread on content you'd like to see on KennyRoy.com. Just like the video mails, the lectures are based on what I hear from you guys, and I'm having a great time. I hope you are too. Thanks a lot for watching. Good luck with your animation. And as always, rock on.